All around us are 225 square foot museum exhibits that the students in the third year museum course have designed and built.
We made our exhibit Vein to Vein on blood donation,
Not One Less. It's called Braver Than Loneliness,
Walls Down.
Called Prescribing Hope. Hi, my name is Anvita. I'm a third-year student in Knowledge Integration, and today I'm here to walk you through our museum exhibit called Prescribing Hope, which focuses on Canada's opioid crisis, and we use the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 3, good health and well-being, to guide our work. So obviously there's a lot of history behind substance use, opioid use, and the crisis in Canada as a whole. But as a group, we decided to place our focus on moving forward and a focus on the strategies and policies in place to alleviate this crisis in Canada. Okay, so we start with the basics. What is an opioid? How does opioid use work? And how does opioid dependency work? This comic is meant to illustrate how the brain interacts with an opioid when it's dependent. So we start with the healthy brain. There are 3 blue gears that turn together really nicely with no problems, and that shows what a brain is like before using any opioids. Then we move on to the brain that is dependent on opioids. The red gear is meant to represent the opioid, and as you can see, the gears cannot turn without the red gear in place. Then we move on to withdrawal. The red gear is now missing. There are no opioids in the body, and the gears do not turn together anymore. This just shows the fact that people who are dependent need the opioid to function. So as you can see, this is a map of Canada that we laser cut in the university. We start over here with BC, and you can pull off the panels and see that BC has the largest amount of recorded deaths from opioid overdoses in 2018. Moving on to Ontario, we can see Ontario has the second most recorded. And then we go into more remote provinces like in the north, and we can see that the Northwest Territories only has 2. This is likely just because of fewer resources to make these recordings. This is just meant to show the layout of the crisis on the national scale. We placed a really big emphasis on harm reduction in this exhibit. In the context of substance use, harm reduction is a set of strategies and practices that aims to reduce the harm, so disease, death, illness, etc., for people who use substances. And because this is a museum, it's very objects-based. So here we have examples accompanied with their relevant objects. And just to go over, an example that most people know about would be a nicotine patch or a nicotine gum, the use of those types of harm reduction strategies. So the nicotine patch, you're still taking the drug, nicotine. However, it's in a medium that is safer than smoking a cigarette, for example. So in that way, you're reducing the harm on your body. Something that we as a group are most proud of are our recorded audio testimonies. We reached out to 4 KW locals who had lived experience either personally with substance use and opioid use or loved ones who had experience with substance use, and we were able to get them to give us some of their time and an interview about what their experiences are like. So essentially you just lift the telephone, hit the corresponding number, and you hear somebody's story. A more practical approach to this crisis response is something called Naloxone. It's a really simple tool that essentially acts as an EpiPen for an opioid overdose. It delays the effects of the opioid until the person can get medical attention. And in the kit comes a nasal spray, instructions, some safety measures like a mask and gloves, and you can get it for free at most of your local pharmacies. A special shout out to our professors, Rob and Paul, who were instrumental throughout this 8-month process, as well as to everybody from Public Health, Sanguine Health Center, and everybody we were able to interview who gave us the resources to tell this story appropriately. Thanks for visiting. We hope you learned something, and I'd also just like to extend thanks on behalf of my group to all of our donors from the City of Waterloo Museum, Meridian Credit Union, and the Lewitt Family Foundation who made the exhibit that you see possible today.